Good evening, everyone.
There's a bunch of Shaughnesses is in there as well.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our annual board meeting that we hold once a year. And having called this to order, and there's no indication of anybody attending remotely because we got everybody here. So at this point, I would like to turn the running of the meeting over to our Executive Director and Board Secretary Tim Bartlett for the conduct elections of officers, etc.
Thank you, Michael. I think the first order of business is swearing in the newly elected commissioner. Laura Hastings was elected commissioner of the Urbana Park District on April 4th, 2023, and will serve a 6-year term. Our next thing we'll do is swear Laura in. Laura, if you would stand with me. I think you have your oath script.
I do.
And if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Laura Hastings,
Having been elected to the office of Commissioner of the Urbana Park District
having been elected to the office of Commissioner of the Urbana Park District
in the County of Champaign in the state of Illinois,
in the County of Champaign in the state of Illinois,
do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do firmly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner to the best of my ability.
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Commissioner to the best of my ability.
Thank you. You're sworn in and official commissioner now. Thank you. I believe the next business item, Michael, is the election of officers, starting with President of the Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to take any nominations from the floor from the commissioners for the role of President of the Board of Commissioners.
I move to elect Michael Walker to Board President.
Is there a second on that
Second.
nomination? We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll start with a roll call vote then, starting with my right. Go ahead, Cedric.
Aye.
Aye.
Pass.
Aye.
Aye.
I think that gives us 4 votes, which is from our quorum, and Michael Walker is duly elected as President of the Board of Commissioners. We'll take back over the meeting for the next election of officer, which is the Vice President role.
Well, thank you all for that confidence in me. I hope I will earn it. The next item of business is to elect a vice president for the coming year. And I would like to open the nominations for vice president at this point.
I move to elect Commissioner Blumenthal to the Board Vice President.
I second.
Go ahead.
I think Cedric won the race.
Yeah, he was faster with the button.
Yeah. Any other nominations? Hearing none, let's hold a roll call vote, starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. And moves us then to the annual appointments to be made. And I think there's a whole list of the appointments listed on our agenda today. To wit, Board Secretary Tim Bartlett, Assistant Secretary Allison Jones, Board Treasurer Thomas Brown, Attorney Matt Deering, Board Recorder Allison Jones, or the designee of the Finance Manager, and lastly, Auditor Sikich, which I think we pretty much have to do since we already signed a contract with him.
So I move to make the following appointments. Board Secretary Tim Bartlett, Assistant Secretary Allison Jones, Board Treasurer Thomas Brown, Attorney Matt Deering, Board Recorder Allison Jones or designee of the Finance Manager, Auditor Sikich.
Second.
And that's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the point? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call, starting with Cedric at the left.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously as well. Next up is action to appoint a commissioner to the Urbana Parks Foundation. Do we?
I move to appoint Commissioner Roger Diggs to the Urbana Parks Foundation.
Second?
That's moved and seconded. Any other nominations or any discussion? Hearing none, I don't know, is it fair to start with you, Roger, on this roll call?
I'm good with it. Aye.
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 Okay, and that carries unanimously. Next is action to appoint one or more commissioners as UPDEC representatives.
Michael, I just wanted to make a note. The annotated note is to indicate that Nancy Del Coleman was serving in that other role. Obviously, with her not serving, the other commissioner was Cedric, who is serving, so we would need one new
Right.
role.
I move to appoint Commissioner Laura Hastings as UPDEC representative.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that point? Hearing none, roll call starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously as well. And lastly, action to appoint one or more representatives to the Urbana TIF Joint Review Board. I mean, as Tim and I have sort of traditionally done that together. But
I think technically Michael's the representative, and I've served in the alternate role. If he's not present, I could vote. I attend all the meetings, but
now, if anyone else wants to take over this exciting job,
I move to appoint Commissioner Michael Walker and Tim Bartlett to the Urbana TIF Joint Review Board.
Second.
any further discussion on this point? Hearing none, then a roll call starting with Roger.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously as well. And that brings us to the end of the agenda for our annual meeting. So I will declare that adjourned and declare that we have opened now the regular board meeting agenda. And the first item of business there is to either accept or amend the agenda. And as I understand it, there is a request for a modification.
Michael, we have an addition under item 2, public comment B. After staff introductions, we have a staff award that'll be presented. We'll conduct that after the staff introduction, if that's okay with the board.
I move to accept the agenda with the addition to public comment part B.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call. I forgot which way, but we'll do Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously. So we have an agenda for the rest of the evening. And that brings us to public comment. So is there anyone here from the public wishing to address the board?
I do have one comment. Seeing Nancy Del Coleman in the audience, and we didn't have a proper thank you and goodbye at our last meeting, although we know we won't miss her. We have some other things. We continue to work with Nancy on some other things related to the foundation. But just wanted to let Nancy know what a pleasure it has been to work with her all these years. We had a very similar overlapping career, so it's amazing to see her retire at this point. I say retire. She chose not to run again, but certainly would have been encouraged and has served this district really well. She's worked super well with our staff. I think just had a really strong connection. Reaches out to the public. She's always available. She comes to our programs and events and facilities and kind of knows what's going on a firsthand level. So we just say goodbye to our friend and just want to thank her for all the hard work. As we know, serving in a commissioner elected, any elected position is very difficult. Just the amount of information that needs to be read and processed is overwhelming month to month. The fact that somebody could do it for nearly 30 years or so is just overwhelming to me. So again, Nancy, thank you so much. I can speak for all of our staff throughout the time that I've been here. It's just been a wonderful pleasure, and we hope that you'll come visit us and stick around.
It wasn't hard. It was a pleasure because the staff is so fabulous.
Well,
And it was just maybe-
I think we
I think
had a
that's-
good team.
yeah.
Thank you.
I guess I should have snuck out with all these books. I wanted to see Laura on because I know she's going to do it. I've known her so long, so I'm really happy to see her sitting in this chair.
Me too.
don't sneak out with these guys, I don't.
Now, that'll be a new experience. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, let's move on then to new staff introductions.
I think Rich McMahon is here with a new staff introduction. Come on up, gentlemen.
Like Tim said, I'm Rich McMahon. I'm the grounds maintenance supervisor at the Park District. And we hired Kyle a few weeks ago, and last Monday, May 1st, was his first day. His official title is Natural Landscape Technician, brand new position. After years of growth and the need for some extra help, we finally were able to add this full-time position. So Kyle will be sort of a hybrid. He'll be helping Georgina Donahoe in the regular landscaping area, and then Matt Balk in natural areas. So it's going to be a bit of a learning process with how we use him, you know, whether it's a week here, a week there, a week here, a week there, or what, but we'll kind of get through it together and figure out what the best way to use him. He's already been a huge help, just being able to, you know, give him a call and say, hey, I need you to do this, and boom, he's there, and he's been a big help already. And I'll let Kyle talk a little bit more about himself.
Thank you, Rich. My name's Kyle McHugh. I graduated from the University of Delaware in 2016 with a degree in wildlife ecology and conservation. I'm a certified certified associate wildlife biologist, and this job will not be as much contributing to that, but a big part of ecology is like from the smallest level up, and having invasives in an environment removes a lot of the potential to have native plants, which will in turn not attract native bugs, and then you don't have the native birds that everybody wants to see. So it is good to be taking care of these natural areas as well as the flower beds with Georgina. Planted a lot today. And looking forward to helping out the environment more.
Terrific.
Awesome. Great.
Well, yeah,
Welcome.
welcome.
Glad to have you.
I just wanted to add on what Rich said. You know, this is a position we've been planning for a long time. And as we saw expansion of natural areas along the lake edge of Crystal Lake Park, Perkins Road coming fully on site, Matt's taken on more and more areas in his growth. Georgina finds more and more to do all the time. You know, she revitalized the Phillips landscape bed, the cottage landscape bed, the landscaping at the pool, the nature center. We have a lot more of these native pollinator-focused gardens, and having Kyle's help and expertise in those areas is going to be a huge difference. I would also mention that we have a new facility opening that's going to have a lot of landscaping involved. A lot of it will be native, so welcome aboard, Kyle.
Great timing.
And then we come to the item that was added to the agenda.
Yes, we have a staff award to be presented to Chelsea Prawl. I think Savannah Donovan will do the honors, and if you both come up and tell us about it. Corky, can you get a photo? I saw you on the
Hi,
move.
thank you. Thank you for having us. So I am Savannah Donovan. I'm the Environmental Program Manager for the Park District, but I'm actually here in a different role tonight. I am also the Board President of the Environmental Education Association of Illinois, and I'm here to announce that Chelsea Prawl has been awarded our Non-Formal Educator of the Year award. So. And I just wanted to say a few words about how Chelsea earned this award. This competitive award is presented to an Illinois educator for exhibiting innovative and exemplary efforts in providing environmental education opportunities for general audiences. Nominations are peer-reviewed by a committee of EEAI members from across the state. So I did not personally award Chelsea this award, though as her supervisor, I did nominate her. But this is, completely with a committee of people from across the state, not necessarily members of EEAI. Obviously, Chelsea is the Environmental Education Coordinator at the Urbana Park District, where she works with students in schools, teen programs, community garden services, and community outreach. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility are of paramount importance in everything that she does and oversees. When local schools struggled to afford transportation for field trips, Chelsea created the Connecting Classrooms with Nature sponsorship program. She continually solicits donations from individuals and businesses and pairs those funds with classrooms who've applied for a free field trip. To help address food insecurity and foster garden education, Chelsea's been deploying grant funds to create and distribute plants and container garden grow kits to households in need. She acts as the Urbana Park District's liaison for Solidarity Gardens CU, in addition to managing 2 organic community garden locations in Urbana, so that's Meadowbrook and Victory Parks. Presented with Champaign-Urbana's need for teen engagement, Chelsea has developed a suite of opportunities for teens throughout the year. Camp Fresh is an immersive community service learning summer camp. Fresh Crew Teen Nature Work Days provide opportunities for teens to work in local natural areas and solidarity gardens. And Fresh Teen Hangout Zones are free Friday evening programs with food and a wide array of activity options. Hundreds of kids are participating in these programs now. Additionally, Chelsea oversees the Urbana Park District's counselor in training and junior counselor teen leadership development programs during the summer camp season. As co-chair of the Park District's You Belong Here team, Chelsea plays a vital role in creating a welcoming and safe space for diverse participants and staff. She serves as an outstanding role model for the Urbana-Champaign community, as well as for other agencies looking to improve on their inclusion practices. Chelsea's work impacts thousands of school-aged youth each year, fostering lifelong relationships among children, their community, and the environment. This work has never been more valuable than it is today. The Environmental Education Association of Illinois is proud to recognize Chelsea Prawl for her outstanding commitment to providing high-quality environmental education experiences for everyone who she has the opportunity to work with. So, thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
As long as we're talking about environmental education and natural areas, a shameless plug for the Birdathon taking place right now, Champaign County Audubon Birdathon. Savannah and I are helping to coordinate that, and we've got a couple walks left this week. So if you'd like to come out and look at some birds, please join us, or support Champaign County Audubon, make a pledge.
Good plug.
Alrighty, let's move on then to the UPDEC report. There was a report included in our packet. I don't know if there are any further comments.
No, other than that Savannah presented the CARES and is really well received. UPDEC had a lot of comments to make, as always. I really like this current group for UPDEC. They're really engaged.
Any questions or comments? Okay, then let's move on to our consent agenda. And on the consent agenda this evening is approval of the minutes of the April 4 study session meeting, the April 11 regular board meeting, receipt of the 3 departmental monthly reports, action to accept the philanthropy report and gifts listed with gratitude, approval of the monthly paid accounts payable, action on resolution 2023-04 to appoint the Urbana Park District Freedom of Information Act officers, action on resolution 2023-05 to appoint the Park District Open Meetings Act representatives, action on resolution 2023-06 to appoint the UPD ADA coordinator, and lastly, action on annual appointments and assignments. And these are normally routine kinds of things, but it is the purview of any single commissioner to have any or all of these items removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. Is there a desire on the part of any commissioner to do that? Seeing no indication of that, is there somebody ready to make a motion?
I move to approve all the action items on the consent agenda and accept all the information items listed on the consent agenda in an omnibus manner.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and under our rules, there is to be no further discussion at this point, so we will hold a roll call vote, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. So we move on then to Roman numeral 5, reports, starting with Laura on finances.
Hello. We will start with the first packet, which is our revenues and expenditures reports. The first page is Sum 1, and these are all funds excluding the capital improvement funds. Just noting that both the revenue expenditures report this month as well as the treasurer's reports, these are preliminary year-end and unaudited results. So they are subject to change. I promise you they will change. So these are for the results for the past 12 months, ending on April 30th of 2023. On page 1, total revenues, $13,393,787. Total expenditures, $12,306,906. This gives us a surplus after 12 months, meaning that there is an excess of revenues over expenditures paid by $1,086,882. Page 2. This is our capital improvements fund, standalone. Again, the total revenues here, $2,574,517, and our total expenditures, $3,035,133. This gives us a deficit of $460,615. And page 3, labeled Sum 3, this is all funds district-wide. Just noting here that the very bottom line, our ending fund balance for all funds, $14,479,507. And the remaining reports then are our ending fund balances for our 3 main working funds, which are our general fund, our recreation fund, and the museum fund. And the last pages are the indoor pool, Urbana Indoor Aquatics.
And am I correct that these numbers, in fact, may change in minor ways as bills come in that were accrued in the fiscal year? Or
I'm sorry, what's that? They'll change by, we have budgeted transfers. They all have not been posted quite yet, so those will affect some of the transfers in, transfers out.
Right.
In each of the funds. The indoor pool has to be reconciled as well, and then we need to bill the school district for their portion, their half of those operating funds. So those numbers are going to change dramatically then in the UIAC fund. And then just in general, working with the auditors, our audit is right on the threshold, getting underway, and that always, results in some additional journal entries and some changes and whatnot. So just all the typical things each year. Okay, then moving on to the treasurer's report. Treasurer's report is a report of the amount of cash that the district has on a single day on April 30th of 2023. Page 1 lists all 25 funds down the left and where they're invested across the top. Noting in the bottom right that investments on this date totaling $17,194,641.41. Page 2, the top section, lists the amounts we have in interest-bearing accounts. Of that $17,194,000 from the front page, total dollars on hand, $11,878,312.39 are out in investments in varying rates. Really great rates so far. Yay. This number, if you notice, this number is down a little bit,
Yeah.
like a little lot.
A lot.
The money that, from the bonds that we're using for the Health and Wellness Center, that were in investments, we have moved to the operating account in anticipation of the groundbreaking, and knowing that we're trying to use as much of our on-hand upfront to give us a little bit of room to get the grant monies and so forth rolling. So we know we're going to need that money very quickly, so it's moved out of investments into operating on page 1.
And interest rates
Leading
give on
rate.
one hand and they take away on the other.
Well, exactly, so. And then the bottom of page 2, there is our inter-fund loans, and this month did reflect $50,000 between moving from the rec over to UIAC. Again, the Park District's kind of already put in their estimated half, but we won't get school district until we finalize, send them a bill. So we need a little bit of comfort in that account, and so we moved 50,000, and that will be repaid then once we receive the school district's funds, probably mid-July. And then page 3, this is the last section of our report, and it lists the distributions for the month of April. Vendor payments match the paid accounts payable in the consent agenda, and the total disbursements of funds, which includes both payroll and vendor. Total is $545,168.02. And I present you the treasurer's report for audit.
I move to accept the treasurer's report for audit.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously.
All right, and then the last set of reports here are our capital budget reports. The areas are highlighted with an asterisk symbol. These are the areas of new activity during the month of April. Our first budget is the 2019A capital budget. There was a $1,604 expenditure. This was paid to Fairgram, and this was a little bit more of the Crystal Lake Park Road project, design number 31. 2023 budget, capital budget, we received $1,125 under tributes and donations. This was for some trees and a plaque. Under expenditures, there was a little tiny $96 for miscellaneous supplies for the construction crew projects. That's all we had in that budget. 2022, we did receive a little bit more money from ITEP towards the Crystal Lake Broadway project, $842. And then down below in equipment, we did complete the purchase for the Gator, for the athletics ball field, and just a quick note, $16,635 is what we paid for that piece of equipment, and then we had an accessory added to that for $33,634, but then we also had a trade-in of $4,000. That's why the number in our column is $16,269 in total. 2021, we had $3,681 in expenditures under tributes and donations for benches. Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but this must have been a large order of benches, and it went, we were just depleting some of it across several
Benches are
capital budgets.
A little different than trees. Trees tend to be money in, money out. With benches, we place a large order at once. There's usually a long lead time. We like to have several on hand for when donors come calling.
Perfect. Okay, and then another small bill, $652 under the construction crew projects. This was specific to UPDAC purchasing sign and then some lumber. I believe that was to make for the tables. And then under UIAC, our shared capital expenditures. Again, this is another one that was kind of split up over a couple of capital budget years. This was the final $9,900 for the tire slide that's going to be installed over there. Our portion of that was half of that, so $4,950. This budget's absorbing $1,284 of that bill. 2020, under expenditures, here's $7,853 more for benches. In technology, this is another one that we've spread out over a couple of budgets. The new phone system district-wide, the equipment for all of the locations. We're talking a large number, and $7,847 for that came out of this budget. And then here's the remaining for the UIAC Tiger Slide, $3,666. $2019, $6,815 was received from the Champaign Park District to reimburse for ADA expenses. This one was specific to the ADA consultant. That total bill was $10,000. This will be split over 2 capital budgets. So this piece was $6,815. More benches under tributes and donations under expenditures, $1,056. More telephone equipment under technology, $6,897. And our last one, 2018, this was the remainder of revenue received from Champaign Park District for our ADA consultant for $3,185. And then under expenditures, the remaining benches, $1,583. 2017 is not here, it's fully used, we're happy. Thanks to Andy, absolutely no budget was untouched this time, so I will turn it over to Andy and Derek for more capital project updates.
Okay, I've made sure to include all updates that were not addressed last week in the capital update portion of the study session, so there's no repeat information. Starting with the sanitary districts project at Crystal Lake here. They'll have a new sanitary line that will include a new pedestrian bridge. This is just kind of showing the current bridge, where the new bridge will go. Stark is the contractor, and they've provided a tentative schedule. I know it's a little tough to see here. But basically there's 2 phases. So stage 1 is going to be this month. And that's going to incorporate these first 7 or so items, and that's really prepping the site for the new bridge. And then there will be a little bit of time off, and then towards late July, early August, we'll start stage 2, which will be placing the new bridge, and then demo of the existing bridge will happen in September. And so during stage 1, there will be some intermittent road closure, but the path system should remain open pretty much throughout. Stage 2, they'll be setting up construction fencing and actually blocking off a portion of this road here to stage their materials, and obviously they'll have to get into it to make the new line. And they will try to keep things open as much as they can as far as the path, but there will be some times in that late summer period where they may have some elongated closures in that area.
Are there any expected interactions with the fixing up the wall and then finishing the parking lot at the lake house?
That is a good question. That is my next
Great segue.
on the road project.
I want to let you all know that we did make a big step forward with the money that we're contributing to that project. You may recall that we put in some money through DCO with Scott Bennett. We've made a very large step in terms of finalizing that agreement. And, at this point, we just need to submit prior incurred cost for the shoreline project that will then pay for our portion of that bridge.
So on this is a separate project for the road, and that's with a different contractor. And you can see here on the image on the left is the masonry group. So that contractor, because they did not meet the spec for the wall itself, we worked with them to come up with a solution to make it meet our new expectations, and that was basically to do this stone veneer. And so they were on site in the last month putting the stone veneer on. Tried to get more of a close-up view so you can see what it looks like. I think it looks very nice. And then here's kind of full images of the wall as of today. And so last week, towards the end of last week, The concrete contractor was actually out and getting the curb and gutter ready for the remainder of the paving work. The face of the wall is pretty much done. There's going to be a graffiti protectant that's put on it. We have to wait for it to cure a little bit longer, and we're going to do a little test piece to make sure it doesn't alter the color too much, but we don't anticipate it will. And then once that's finished, there will be a stone cap placed on top and then a railing. And then we'll be able to move forward even more with the new turnaround and garbage enclosure. I included an image of kind of what that's going to look like. You can see where that curb was in the last pictures is right here. This will be our garbage dumpster enclosure. It'll have like a PVC decorative fence around it to hide the dumpster and secure it. And then this is a depressed curb, so we have more of a flat, be able to drop off materials for events, more rentals, caterers at the lake house, and then a better turnaround here at the end. The entire parking lot will get repaved just like the rest of the park, but there was some regrading work associated with the ADA parking areas, which was also done on the lower east lot to have that meet the current standards for the grade there. And kind of a smaller project, but I think kind of a cool and exciting one. These are the pillars off of Broadway. And we had a call to Keith about a month ago. These were actually, the rehab of these pillars are kind of been on our prioritized list of capital projects for a while. And someone actually called and said, these on Broadway seem to be in a little bit of disrepair. We need to go take a closer look at them. And so we went out and took a look, looked at all the pillars throughout the park. And these ones on Broadway were certainly in rough shape. So I tried to get some pictures to show loose mortar. Here, I actually pulled this out for the picture. That's how loose some of these items were. This stone here was actually flush, and I pulled it out a little bit. You can see that lighter color here.
It's like Jenga.
So we had the contractor that was working on the retaining wall. We had go take a look at these pillars for us and get us a proposal. And so this is some of the work that they've completed. This is them kind of taking out the damaged mortar, and I did another close-up of this is the finished product here, which is a major improvement. And they were also extremely dirty, so they used like a wash treatment on them as well. And so here's some before and after pictures. So this is on the, this would be the north side of that entrance, before and after. And then on that west side, sorry for the shadow, but it's a tremendous improvement. It looks really nice. I think it's a great feature of the park, and I'm glad we took some steps to make sure we took care of them.
That's awesome.
Total cost on that?
I think that was around 9,000.
We'll soon have a bridge outletting right there on
Right.
Sure, I mean,
crossing.
it'll be highly visible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it
Wayfinding.
really is.
That's all I had as far as new items to update on for this week. Happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question about the bridge. There was an article in the News Gazette from, pretty
And a
much
picture,
from,
too.
from the UCSD. I just wondered if it was accurate.
I didn't see
The
it.
picture was not accurate.
Yeah.
Had the wrong
Well, I know
bridge.
the picture.
The story was relatively
The
accurate.
story was relatively accurate.
I
That
talked
was
with-
my sense.
Deb Pressey called us too and got some more information. So I emailed her some more additional information, but sort of trailed out at the end of the article, I think.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Sure, yeah, I think the sanitary district's, a pretty enthusiastic partner on this. It's rare they get to do
Yeah.
this sort of a high-profile capital project. A lot of their work's underground, and
Sure.
they're looking forward to maybe ribbon cutting.
Yeah, it'd be
Oh,
lovely.
good, good.
It's a neat project. Did anyone get calls about the wrong bridge? I did not. I didn't know if anybody got worried and thought we were taking something away from the lake house.
Nobody that I know of. But I will say that birders are looking forward to the new bridge being open,
Right.
so.
It'd be wonderful.
Okay, unless there are any more questions for Andy, let us move on then to the executive director's report, Tim.
Sure, a couple of things. You noticed the wonderful You Belong Here report in there. It's interesting, I followed up with Corky after our our legislative conference in Springfield, and kind of had the conversation, maybe a group that we're not quite reaching out so much and looping into our You Belong Here as our legislators, both federal and state. So I'd love to work with staff on crafting, we've over the years sent packages and brochures and but this is really something that I think could differentiate and get our legislators to maybe remember us as maybe something. So we have some ideas, we're going to be working on that, but we think it's a perfect message and one that we could craft in addition to sharing our brochure and other things going on with the district. So that might be a new rollout, new audience, and we assume they know we're doing good things, but we need to tell them what we're doing and how it's registering with our residents. So follow-ups, good things we talked about was the future blueprint. When that rolls out, that'd be a wonderful report to share with them. So we're on that, and I think it has new potential, to get our legislators, really cued into what else we're doing. So stay tuned for that. Mentioned the legislative conference. Meredith was able to join us for that. She could certainly add any comments, but I thought the actual conference portion was fantastic. The two panels they had were some of the best. They've often done that, had actual legislators, senators and representatives come up and talk. But this year they had 4 that were really, I think, extra special because they had other roles. They had served on boards at park districts or forest preserves. One was, I think, an auditor and knew all about PTEL and received the audits and things like that. I think another one was on a school board. So they really understood how things work and so I think they could speak to it really, really well, and it resonated with the audience. The other panel were staff professionals that talked about ways they found to get connected better to their legislators. So I thought that was helpful. There's some usual version on that each year, but I thought the training and the information was fantastic, and it's well worth going. And it helps you sort of redefine, I think, some ideas we talked about with Corky and Derek is, putting together more formal information on what our needs are and making sure we're sending those out. We heard ideas of, PowerPoints or any short videos or anything you can do to kind of get your ideas across. So I think there's more we can do is what I'm saying. And I think we now look at the conference each year as an opportunity to learn a little bit, but also employ whatever we've learned throughout the year from others and, try to make that impression. We had a dinner reception of our own, and Mike Marin, who's not in Urbana's legislative district, but we certainly share work on the Kickapoo Rail Trail. So Mike was very enthused learning about that and talking. I didn't know if any of the others, or Meredith, if you had any other comments about the conference or the connections.
No, I mean, I would echo what you said. I thought it was really helpful and useful. I also really appreciated Jason Anselman's portion about the sort of how they're tracking all of the bills that are coming through and sort of this idea that more is getting out of committee than used to. So
Yes.
their volume of bills and also the impact of things, right? People make amendments, how it seems might be. It seems like it's not a big deal, and then when you look into the devil's in the details, and so just the advocacy work that IAPD is doing. And I also really I appreciate Mike Marin's time. He gave us a lot of time and at a busy time when they were in session. So I thought that was really helpful. But yeah, I really appreciate the format.
Me too.
There was not a session longer than 25 minutes.
Yeah, I like that too.
I mean, it really, I commented it today to a group of folks on campus, like that was really people were concise and the information was well received.
Right, I agree. They used to have breakouts, which was a nice addition a number of years ago, but you could only get 2 of the 3 offered. This way they ran us all through. Nobody had to get up and waste time moving rooms, and it was, like Meredith said, it was very succinct and got right to the point. So I thought it was one of the better ones. They're all good, but I think they've really refined it, and they're taking comments from people. They really are. So if you have ideas and thoughts, you can jump on their survey, and I certainly did, and let them know also how good it was. So time well spent in Springfield. Moving along, my spring iParks meeting coincided with that. Just want to let everyone know that iParks is in very good position. We have 7 new members. We haven't lost any member agencies in over 6 years. So we're really refining. Like many groups, we're doing a lot with customer outreach, our e-library. Probably two concerns we continue to track, and I'll share them as our risk provider. Things we can control or have more control: safety at the workplace, training staff, being a resource, connecting people with information. But the two big threats we're concerned about is climate change and cyber attacks. Those are two things really beyond that are going to really challenge. So we've got two sides. We've got the casualty, which is personal injury and maybe injury and death, and then property. And casualty used to be the big worry, and still is, because those costs can be really scary when humans are involved. But we're really shifting gears to look at the property side. I mentioned it a while back, but the derecho we had a couple of seasons ago was the wake-up call for every risk pooling group. So you could have a catastrophic situation that would exceed any of your projected estimates, by your, professionals that look at what could happen. So anyway, we continue to look at those two. We're learning and gaining a little more with the cyber, but there's always new tricks and games. So again, they're both very unpredictable and can be very costly. So just wanted to reassure everyone we're on it. We take it very seriously, and we're looking at every way we can look at things to get more information, get better at that.
And just to make a comment, there's an area where those two kind of cross over a little bit,
Mhm.
because if you don't set up your backup system so that it is dispersed a little bit, you could get one of these extreme climate events,
Yeah.
and it also
Yeah.
could knock out your cyber stuff.
Right.
I mean, we had lightning strikes on Indiana Street that
Yeah.
hit down this past weekend.
Yeah, we hear you.
I mean,
Definitely.
that's not even that uncommon.
So we're making good progress and hopefully keeping people where they need to be and safe. Just want to mention, we had the Executive Coalition meeting last week. I know Elsie Hedgebeth does a great job, and I usually forward the notes that she sends on from the All Goals team. That's the general wider community group, but we have an executive committee, and each month, or each meeting, kind of profile different aspects. This month was on mental health. So I hate to bring more kind of concerning news, but what we're hearing from our two school superintendents in Champaign and Urbana, and it's no surprise, but the mental health of our students is in very serious condition, both at elementary, let me back up, at pre-elementary, middle, and high school. That's very consistent with what we're hearing with, folks at Parkland and the U of I as well. Just obviously COVID was a very big disruptor, but we have other ongoing types of issues. And so really, really concerned. And at the same time, what we're finding, Champaign County is a little bit of an island or bubble. We do have more mental health services in our area compared to other places, maybe of similar populations. But what we're learning is many counties in Illinois are purposely withholding the amount of tax funds that could go to their mental health boards. And remember, mental health and special rec is not under PTEL, so it's not under the tax cap. So they could allow full amounts to go, but they're withholding it for probably obvious reasons. They don't want to spend it, or they think it's too expensive. We've got to change that narrative, though, that this is investment money that will really help our communities and our youth and families at a really critical time. And there's no surprise that our gun violence and our overdose rates and just people's general disposition and general health are all, tanking and kind of affected by that same thing. Lastly, with a bit of optimism, having a health and wellness facility come into Urbana anytime soon is really advantageous. So we'll have more options, more time, more ways to connect, at least with our locals. But statewide, countywide, beyond our Urbana borders, there's a lot of concern. So again, Corky and I had met over a year ago with mental health. We're looking for real tangible ways that we might find new programs or opportunities. One that I know we shared that we're open to is peer groups and kind of self-help groups need positive, neutral spaces in the community to meet. They don't want to be in a storefront but in any place where you go in with others and you go and have, so we think that's some opportunity there for us. We also want to continue to work with Urbana School District on anything else we can do, that relates to improving our student mental health. So, any other comments about that?
I think that FRESH program is a really great start
I
for
agree.
that.
I do too. The
mean,
Freedom School,
Yeah.
we agree.
The number of kids that come to that just at Blair Park,
Yes.
and some of those kids, I see them sitting by themselves every day in the summer at Blair Park. They're just sitting there. But man, they come alive. They go to that program, and now they're going to the Phillips Center for it, so.
Fresh Crew.
Oh, Fresh Crew, sorry.
Fresh Group.
I said Freedom School,
Oh,
I thought,
yeah.
the alternative
No, the
school.
Fresh Group. I
Fresh,
think that's.
yes,
I
absolutely.
did call it that, right, didn't I?
No,
Yeah, no,
you
you
said it
called it
right.
right.
I said it wrong. Yeah, we have another
So,
group.
yeah, no, I think that's what we need, is something they feel comfortable coming to. Because even though we are a bubble here, I can tell you from being in the trenches that we have families that cannot get appointments for their children in Champaign, Urbana. They're going to Gibson City and Paxton to get into mental health and, doctors and therapists. And so we do have great services here, but not enough.
Right. And the discussion, and I'm jumping on Laura's comment to springboard, we don't think that what we have is utilized enough and in the proper way. So that's something internally I think the groups can do to try to create more connections, more efficiency, more greater use of those services. Things are definitely tied together.
The nice thing about the Fresh program is that, and I've been to a couple of those, is to watch the way the kids learn to interact with each other, and they need that kind of a relationship. They need a sense of belonging. That's
Exactly.
huge, so.
I agree with that. And then I did want to tack on too, with the Freedom School, the alternative program at Urbana School District. Corky and his staff are working really hard to place anywhere to 15 to 20 students in internship positions. So this is really new, breaking ground. This is going extra and above. So we're really excited about that, and I think that's going to make some impact, and we'll see that happen around June this
Is that
summer.
across the different areas of rec?
Yes.
Or any particular-
So I just had a big meeting today, so there's about 30 kids total. 5 of them are 16, and the rest are 14, 15-year-olds. So we're looking to put about 5 of them together at different departments and hopefully be able to hire them for an actual job that we have, but at first it's kind of going to be made-up jobs for them to be active. So they'll be here the month of June, every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 11. So I'll talk to Derek and see what we can do with maybe a group of 5 over here as
Awesome.
well.
Yeah.
But we're going to be interviewing them next week. Freedom School's been working with them. Tim and I got a list of soft skills that we wanted them to work on. So we're going to interview them next week. Not that we're not going to hire them, but, to just give them that experience
Need,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah.
hopefully get them an opportunity to actually get one of our summer jobs as we
Fantastic.
move forward. So
That's great.
probably utilize a lot of them with aquatics because we need them. But that's kind of where we're headed now.
Well, one of the things comments made at the closing of the coalition meeting was, something that we can do, we should do, and need to do, and I think is right at hand is, we've created programs and special things, and we're partnering in many different ways all across the board. But getting people jobs is one of the most critical things we can do. If both park districts, and Sarah Sandquist, our new director for Champaign Park District, was there, if we could fill every single position, just think the influence we'd have with those young people. They would be with us. They would be making money and learning job and job structure and life skills, soft skills and hard skills. And so we think that that's really something we want to start pushing more. And we did this year. I know Jacob Johnson was out at a number of job fairs, and we found people are interested in connecting. So putting staff in those areas and getting them out there at the job fairs to make the connections. If we could fill every single position, we think we could make a lot more impact than we could with special programs, or, hey, I'm going out to get this group and bring them in and do this too, or with, or for, or, together. So that's something I think when we started talking, I think the whole group started thinking jobs. Let's make sure we're getting all these jobs. Because, the downside is if they go unfilled, that's not helping us. If we have resource to fill them, let's put the effort into getting them filled. And then I think we can get some good things out of it. So I think that seemed to be at least one optimistic opportunity. Just wanted to mention the event at the MIC at the Meadowbrook Interpretive Center. I think Janet covered it or somebody did, and I think Janet in the You Belong Here report, but just a few qualitative. We began working with Deke Weaver, a local performance artist and just an amazing person. number of years ago. He's doing a whole series of endangered animals through the university and through large grants. So we continue to work with Deke, and two of his associates, Latrell Bright and Jason Finkelman, were also, he pulled them in. And Janet and I met with them early, about a year ago, as part of our Wandell 25th celebration, and thought, what else could we do? And they agreed to do a performance based on some aspect of sculpture. And so we had 3 separate performances. Latrell and her team went first, and they really presented a very interesting, creative, abstract message of, public art and more voices, and how do we get more representation in art. And I thought that was very powerful. Jason Finkelman went next, and he did essentially a musical interpretation of a piece of sculpture at Meadowbrook. And it was interesting because when he first started, I thought it was some, like Joshua Tree National Park or something, and then I thought it was bird feathers at a micro scale. Anyway, it was one of our sculptures where he started very close up and then kind of worked his way back, and it was super creative, and then had music and light and sound, and it was just really delightful. And then Deke did an excerpt of his new performance that's going to be at the Stock Pavilion coming up, I think in the fall. And it's his series on whales as an endangered species. So he did a very shortened performance with 2 other performance actors there, and had some background and shared, the impact of, basically the loss of whales. So it was very impactful. We had about 45 people at the facility. But my main point in sharing this is another dimension. I talked with Derek and Corky about it too, is, at least Janet and I really saw that the MIC has a lot of potential. When we think of an interpretive center, you think walking into a museum and seeing exhibits, or at least I do. And we saw a new dimension. Certainly having information at the site is important, but we can interpret Meadowbrook Park through performance, and the barn as being a performance, agent. And so I talked with Latrell at the end of the evening of, hey, what other ideas could we get together? And she's really interested in doing an opera element for next season and introducing something like that. So I think we'd like to work with the arts and culture team and maybe selecting some alternative performance opportunities that still relate to Meadowbrook, but maybe do it in different art forms that might attract new and different. Because everybody in that room, I'd never seen most of them before, so they were new visitors.
45 is a lot for
It was a lot, and there was
That's
no
excellent.
strong promotion or ticket sales or anything. It was word of mouth, and a few of our park friends were there. Amani Ayad came, and she was very impressed with the whole performance. And
Yeah, she was telling me about it.
good,
She's
great,
really
awesome.
fantastic.
It really was, and while small portions were filmed, Jason's entire thing, he forgot to hit record. So it was literally a one performance. So you had to be there. So if you get a chance to come out to any of these other future performances, again, we're limited by, access, parking, all those. But for a small venue, what could you do there? And it's kind of exciting. So stay tuned for that. Moving on, later on the agenda tonight, we'll have a resolution related to the local government efficiency element, and I think they profiled it at the legislative conference. Michael was kind enough to talk with me over the phone and let me expound all of my thoughts and wisdoms on it so I could save time tonight. But just wanted to mention it because it was mentioned at the legislative conference. Here's a bill, it's a perfect one that I think Meredith selected or probably was thinking of. What started out as a consolidation effort. Remember, there's lots of effort movements to eliminate government, reduce special districts like park districts, forest preserves, rec districts, conservation districts, and special rec districts out of existence, in addition to any other special district that someone might not think is worthy. So the consolidate effort got pushed back through the IAPD and other advocates. So it basically, what Jason Anselman did was show what consolidation turned into efficiency. And so they softened the blow, if you will. So we're grateful for that, and that's really one of the important things that IAPD does. Sometimes they can't make things just go away, but they can get it modified so it's reasonable. I just wanted to pick a little bit, though. We have distinguished agencies throughout Illinois. That's an entire process. We did it a number of years ago. We chose to develop our own standards as a result, but none of those distinguished agencies are exempted from this, which seems extremely redundant to go collect all of these documents when they already have them. So again, what it's called, how it's done, we'll let that be, and it'll be a resolution we must approve later in the agenda. And it's a process we have 18 months to conduct. Allison Jones has offered to be our lead and help with that, and we're
Thank you.
definitely. Because what was frustrating for the rest of us is, we're trying to move into the health and wellness. Following on another major project is not what we need right now. So if we can slide through that, we've graciously pulled in Megan Pusey from the foundation and Ashley Withers from our UPDAC to make it a board, so you'll all be involved, and we'll get that going and meet the minimum of requirements. I'm not saying there won't be things we can't learn or there couldn't be opportunities, but again, this isn't really what park districts need. It's not going to help them find more resource and ways to serve their community, but we'll get through this, and we'll see how that lands. Lastly, just mention we're getting ready for summer. We have summer seasonal training staff coming up Wednesday, May 17th. It's a big production. We're excited about that, getting everybody on board. And then lastly, the health and wellness core team, meaning staff group in this room, we're starting meetings with our local partners, the school district, City of Urbana, Champaign County, and MTD. We're going in teams just to talk to them about construction in their neighborhood. Things are going to change at Preston Williams Elementary School, and at Brookins Administrative, it'll look different. We'll have some road disruptions. Some of the islands need cut through. So getting people prepared for that. Talking about new bus service, how does that look? We'll have those conversations in trails and what's coming in the trail world. And so again, sort of a pre-connection. It's happening, what's going on, here's our schedule and staging plan, and then try to learn from them, any concerns. And there's a number of issues that Corky and Derek and I will be talking with those groups to try to get things lined up and moved along for health and wellness to come into play. That's all I had in updates, but I can answer any other questions.
You might want to change the name of that you use for that, with CORE being our construction
Yeah,
manager.
I thought of that as soon as I said it. Our core group, we'll have to come up with other acronyms for that. Thank you, Michael, for saying CORE, but on health and wellness, did want to mention, we had a wonderful event out at the park, and thought that was just really well done. Every person who spoke was just wonderful, and I think worked really well, but didn't get enough time to thank the Urbana Park District team and the staff, all of our supervisors, all of the managers, are involved, will be involved. They've got great ideas, they have facilities, they run things, and they're going to be involved. So just can't say enough about this dynamic team that we put together. As we know, Farnsworth, we just owe a lot of gratitude to them in numerous spots. Early in the pre when we were in another project, we sort of connected, and they kind of helped bring us through that. They helped us at a couple of other critical points when we were really at a press time, and they kicked in the work, and just amazing work. So I think we have a solid partnership. And then mention just CORE's contribution, CORE, the management company. I was talking with their CEO prior to the groundbreaking, and he was explaining that people don't really realize how much pre-work they do in that pre-bid, bid, sort of before the construction happens. And it really is true, because they help bail some things out too when we hit the wall of money, lack of money. They were able to help find some approaches that, while our cost did grow, we still kept the project on track, and I think they helped. So I think our team, Farnsworth and CORE, will work really well together. Won't mean we won't have challenges or, maybe disagreements, but I think the vision is there and it's been cast. So we look forward.
Well, and one of the things that didn't get discussed at that event on Saturday, but going with the construction manager approach and the impact that has had on making it possible for some of these smaller outfits to get in and participate, and the percentage of the money going to women and minority-owned businesses is just astounding.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't do that pick a single bid to a general contractor environment, because general contractor is going to pick whomever they're already comfortable with, and it'll just be the same old group of players. And I don't know, it'll be a long time before we approach any project this big again. But I think there's a lot to learn from the model that was used there. I hope the ultimate outcome we will also be happy with, but what a difference.
It is a difference. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Moving on to the President's report, upcoming meetings, May 23rd for UPDAC. And then there's,
Yeah, there's two.
there's two UPDAC meetings on May 23rd, apparently.
Oh, let's get that.
One of them's May.
Split
One's
myself
probably
and go to
enough.
both. Yeah.
Yeah, there's June 6th for a study session, although the topic has not been identified for that yet. And then June 13th, the regular board meeting for June. So, and that's the time when we annex additional territory into the Park District that's already come into the city, and review and discuss projects or charges for UPDAC, although have we not actually been completing that a little later in the year?
Yes, but
And also,
historically, we've sometimes started, so we kind of follow our,
yeah.
let's call it the general monthly tracking report.
And I don't have anything additional to add to that.
Do we didn't get information yet on UPDAC vacancies and,
No, we can send that out. And I know the SUNA neighborhood meeting is coming up, and I make a big push there and usually have some success to get somebody in that neighborhood. It's a large neighborhood area, so it covers a pretty wide, diverse area. So that's coming up, and I know Kelsey's been talking with a number of people, but yes, we'll get that update, get that rolled out.
I just have somebody in mind, so if we have packets or things. I'd like to
Awesome,
just-
we do.
Maybe another guinea pig for Jake's new application. Well, I guess that was on the foundation, wasn't it?
Right, but we go from one to the other.
I know, right? Bounce, bounce, bounce.
Right.
The Finance Study Group, we last met over a month ago, so there's nothing additional to report at this point. We have, however, scheduled a meeting, I think, for,
I think May 19th, am I tracking? Is
I
that-
think that's correct.
I think that's
Yeah.
correct, yes.
That's right.
yeah. The Policy Study Group
We have not met.
and Parks Foundation.
Well, between Kelsey's report and the entire report of the foundation, I really don't have anything
Yeah.
to add.
Yeah. And I assume there's nothing from the UPDAC Planning Study Group at this point, having, okay.
No.
Well, then we're ready to move on to old business, and there is none because we left everything that was old business on the consent agenda. So, new business, now we're getting into some meatier things. Action to approve the ARPA intergovernmental agreement for the Health and Wellness Center between the City of Urbana and the Park District.
Just so you know, the city's committed $2 million in the ARPA agreement. We've been working back and forth with staff to try to get the agreement put together. I think one of the kind of the things we're trying to work on and feel confident is trying to get additional monies up front. So the more money we can front load, the more that we can pay out and avoid any sort of gaps or times where we might have to go borrow sooner than we care to. Just want to compliment the city staff has been accommodating. I didn't know if there were any additional questions, anything staff had to add on that agreement?
I'll just mention that when we approached city staff about the possibility, I think it was Roger's suggestion to inquire about it, they saw the wisdom in it right away. The interest savings is significant, and obviously, that's a benefit to the taxpayer. Plus, you probably saw in the paper not too long ago that Mayor Diane Marlin was concerned about getting this money out there. Well, we're ready to take it. So we've included some information in the exhibit about the estimated savings associated with that. It comes directly from Spear's work, where they're looking at us borrowing a couple different categories of borrowing, but we were looking at one point at $6 million to cover all of our grants And we had a call date about 2 years out. So we took a third of that, and that was the basis for those projected savings. And then we also factored in some potential additional savings that we would recognize if we had that money up front, and we would need to borrow for other grants sooner. And so that's what we've documented for the city's behalf. Right now, they're anticipating that it could get approved at the 15th, they're meeting on the 15th. If there are changes from city council, we'll bring back a revised agreement to you all. But otherwise, we would recommend approving this agreement as it stands.
Is there, I did have the one question I emailed
26th, yeah, yeah.
about,
2000.
at the end of it, it's talking December of 2026, and
Yeah.
yet elsewhere it says we got to be done by
So
24.
that's, our understanding is that that's more of a requirement for the treasury and not specific to
Yeah.
our
It's
IGA.
boilerplate that's come out of the,
Correct.
because it is totally incongruous. I mean, we don't like to get it put to bed, and everybody agreed that we spent the money for the right kind of stuff long before 2026.
Yeah. I think when it gets to that date, the city's now getting into dangerous, scheduling with the treasury. We'll be done well before that. And the agreement does say on or before the 2026.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll certainly be complete by then.
So the hope is that we would shift from quarterly payments to just an upfront lump sum, or, okay.
Yeah. And that is the other possibility we discussed, is an alternate where we do quarterly advance payments, try to forecast when we're going to start seeing invoices come in. But that creates some real complications in terms of once invoice comes in, is it different than what you forecast, and how do you, manage all that? So I think we're all hopeful that the $2 million advance will go through.
Great.
I mean, we are committing to paying it back if we don't perform, so.
I think the fact that it's capital too makes it easier, and we're another, partner government agency, so we're hopeful it'll go that way.
Well, I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Exhibit A for the Health and Wellness Facility, assistance between the City of Urbana and the Urbana Park District.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
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 And that carries unanimously with all 5 commissioners voting. Hooray. Let's hope they come through on the 15th.
Yeah.
And the next item is action to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the county for this funds from the same source.
We did receive $500,000 from Champaign County, and we have another but different agreement. It's interesting, the differences between the groups, but we respect both and know.
I mean, some of the wording is identical. It's got to have been ripped right out of somebody's boilerplate.
Right. Just wanted to mention, we did make a formal request to Champaign County for additional ARPA support. I think their understanding was there was some available funds that haven't been committed, so they were taking proposals. So we did submit a proposal for additional. Our assumption is if awarded, it would be a separate agreement that would follow up after the fact. I think what I was told was by the end of May, the county should know what they're going to do. Corky and I met on health and wellness related plans with the county with Steve Summers and Dana Brenner from the county, and we talked a little about that, expressed our deep gratitude and didn't want to make it sound like we're, grubbing for more. But we do think it's a legitimate project that would meet many of their goals. And if there are any challenges distributing funds, whether groups can't take it or their plans have changed, we certainly could. And that was the message we wanted to underscore. So mildly hopeful, but certainly grateful for what we have received. And tonight we have the agreement. Again, staff did a terrific job working with their staff in putting this together. And did planning have any other additional comments? This one I think was fairly straightforward.
As Michael noted, very similar.
Yeah.
The difference here is that it would be a reimbursement, but we also have an invoice that we're preparing to pay that's over $500,000. We could turn around and submit that for reimbursement. It's for the pre-engineered metal building portion of the project.
So that would be a nice in and out way to get that spent, so there's no concern. Again, the concern that Diane Marlin's talking about is at the federal level, any effort to claw back any of the ARPA funds. So she's saying get it committed, get it spent, get it into your projects and move on it. So that's what we're doing. And this will be a step to move it in that direction.
Don't want to go fishing for money to cover, keep the government running for a
Right,
lot longer. and,
right.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for health and wellness facility assistance between the County of Champaign and the Urbana Park District.
Second?
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion or any questions on the point? Hearing none, let's do a roll call, starting with Roger.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. And now we're to item C, action to award design services for Meadowbrook Park Prairie Play.
Andy has some information or something to share.
Yeah, I was going to just kind of briefly go through some of the items from the memo. I won't necessarily walk all the way through the design. I think everyone's pretty well updated on our site master plan. Certainly if there's any questions, I'm happy to pull it up. But just kind of going through the background, the board had awarded the preliminary design services to Upland in September of 2021. And that really kicked off a significant public input period for us. That included 4 rounds of surveys in total and more than 2,000 engagements, or data input, basically surveys that we got from our community that we incorporated into the site master plan. That took about 7 to 8 months. And so that plan was utilized to apply for the OSLAD grant last summer. And in early March of this year, we received our notice of award, and that was for $550,000. Since that time, we've received our grant documentation, we've signed it and sent it back to the state. They have not fully executed it and returned that to us at this point. But we are able to authorize design services and actually begin work on the design as we wait for those documents to get executed from the state. And so we reached out to Upland, and they provided the attached proposal that you have in your packet attached to the memo, and they've pulled a project team together for civil engineering and site survey for ERA, and then architectural assistance from Reifsteck Reed and Company. The schedule, we've all talked about. What we're looking at is designed to kick off later this spring into summer. There is a potential that we may procure the specific play equipment prior to the bid to deal with any sort of anticipated long lead times for that equipment. And then we would transfer that purchase order basically to the contractor for the project overall.
Pardon me to interrupt, but so the concept is these are one price kind of things. I mean, it's a catalog, it's got a price in it, and it doesn't matter whether it's coming from the contractor or from us.
Correct.
There's not going to be any discount.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
And so we would order it, and then the purchase order, it's similar to pool pack at the indoor pool a while back. We bid the pool pack unit, and then we transferred that purchase order to the contractor for the installation of it later. So then they actually receive it, it gets delivered to them, and it's kind of their responsibility from there.
Some of the equipment may be available through a pre-bid cooperative, and may actually be more competitively priced than what a contractor might get.
Let's
A
hope.
couple mays, but
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, some contractors may mark up a little bit too for their work to get it, so. So we'll plan on bidding,
Will mark up, probably.
yeah. Bidding this winter, and then construction would start spring and into summer next year. As far as budget, we asked Upland to break out a couple additional items as well that we are recommending to include. So their base fee is that $110,300, and then they had a breakout for parking lot work and pavilion restroom renovation that's not included in the grant, but we will likely include it as a bid alternate, and hopefully with some good fundraising too and good bids, we'll be able to include that in the overall project. So we'd recommend to include those items at this time. And the OSLAD grant budget provides $51,850, and then the remaining would be from local funds, which would be our 2022 capital budget, Prairie Play expense line that we have. And then we're additionally recommending including a 15% contingency, and that amounts to $19,695. So all in all, the Upland contract would be for the $131,300, and we are recommending a 15% contingency on that.
So, are there any further questions, or is somebody prepared now to make a motion?
So I move to award Prairie Play Design Services for $131,300 and a 15% contingency in the amount of $19,695 to Upland Design Limited of Plainfield, Illinois.
Second.
I think Meredith was first in on the second. So we have this on the table. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none, a roll call required. Start with Cedric.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously.
I'll just mention, in case you all are curious about the fee, that is below the state threshold that they established for an OSLAD grant. So we're it is a reasonable fee. We obviously added, those 2 line items. We would love to be able to do the parking lot. We'd love to be able to do some of the lighting. I'd love to be able to do more of the pavilion. We're having a lot of success with fundraising so far, and so there's reason for optimism that we might be able to really turn that whole area of the park. But if not, at least having those bid alternates will give us some flexibility as funds come in as we move through fundraising. But Kelsey and the team with the Parks Foundation are doing a great job. So we're really excited about this project. And I would also say that we talked about the legislative conference at the state. IDNR is doing really well right now, better than they've been for a long time. And I think this grant's a sign of that. We're excited about the next round of OSLAD, and hopefully we can put an application. I know there's some discussion with you all before, but we're hopeful we can find a project there as well.
So in the new parking, in the renovated parking lot, would that lighting be dark sky compliant?
It
Is
would
that
be.
the idea?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. What's there right now, much to Tim's chagrin,
Is-
was
is-
temporary construction lighting.
Construction lighting.
Is that right? Is that
With the hope
right?
of a new system, and we just never
Yeah,
got.
and that more than anything needs to be replaced. When we're looking
Yeah.
at the structure, the playground with Jake Wolf, our structural engineer with ERA, he wandered over the poles. He's like, yeah, these are probably about the same condition as your playground.
Well, I do have to say, the crows love them. They love the lighting, so.
Good.
In terms of the schedule, since we're going to be working in prime playtime, and do we expect that Meadowbrook the Prairie Play will be closed all of spring and summer? Do we have any idea what I assume we can't think of what the end date would be at this point.
Yeah, so we're planning demolition for the winter, beginning next winter. We'll know a lot more once we get a contractor on board. It's a fairly big project, and there's some concrete work, and we're doing poured in place for the first time ever. So those are all things that we don't have as much experience with, so it's hard to really forecast. We can ask Upland more, because they've done more of these kind of big multi-dimensional playgrounds. But the thing we have going for us that we didn't have at Blair is that the contractor's installing it. We did that all in-house, and that took a lot longer for that reason. So we're hopeful that we'll get kids out there playing before the season's over, and we'll get more information for you about the.
Yeah, and I was just thinking it would be a great opportunity to sort of showcase other play opportunities within the district
Yeah,
as a
I
way,
was
and maybe
thinking of
that's,
that too.
right, so that, you know, because people will be,
Kind of get a promo.
absolutely,
program
right, like,
Alongside it.
uh-huh.
In fact, it would be nice to have signage.
I
Right,
just gonna
exactly.
say
Have
that
signage.
signage
Where
that
else you can
says,
go.
It's a good idea.
I mean, I'm just thinking of
Some
Blair.
people drive
Yeah,
them out of
Blair
town
is.
there.
Pretty close.
Don't know our
And the
parks.
Crystal Lake.
Yeah. Yeah.
super
playground.
busy.
But just, yeah, where else you can go to play while
Great idea.
Meadowbrook
That's,
is,
that's a great idea.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we get a lot of out-of-towners, and they wouldn't know our other
Absolutely.
parks, so if you, I want to look at my phone and
we just get so
there.
many people
I
from
think that would also help with
regionally.
somebody who's coming and doesn't know it's being,
Right.
it's torn
Yeah.
down,
I
and
agree.
now,
Yeah, now what?
that would keep them from being upset with
Yeah,
us.
Right.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's these other
Next best thing.
opportunities, go see these cool things, and maybe even
It would
include
keep them
pictures.
from being as upset.
Yeah.
There we
Put
go.
it that
Yeah.
way. But no, you're right. I think it would, and it would be a nice way to communicate to the public and be open with the public,
Right.
which is what has been this district's tradition for many, many years, so,
Thoughts? Love it.
good.
Okay, now moving on to item D, Tim's favorite
Yeah,
item
we
on the
have-
entire agenda.
Exactly.
We have to do this.
Tonight, we have the resolution, as you see. This was part of the template package that IAPD sent on, and I just want to comment about their template, too. We have, during my time, have never received a completed templated process. I think there was a lot of concern within all the park districts. I know at our two Central Illinois roundtable meetings with directors, that's all everybody talked, and there's a lot of anger, just that, how did we get in this? Why couldn't somebody stop this? So I think what IAPD staff did is put together all the basic templates we'll need to, I don't want to say fill in the blanks, but it'll be helpful to get us through all that. So tonight, we recommend that.
And is there promise of templates for the coming
Yeah.
3 meetings?
Yes, well, I think for the components, there's some good templates there. So our goal would be to try to reduce or eliminate creating any new work. But if we can just go pull what we have and pull it together. And essentially, I think the process is to show your documents and records that indicate you have some level of efficiency in working knowledge and operation, I guess. Again, the fact that we submitted ultimately to the counties, the cities and the counties are exempt from this process. So I think we can all draw our own conclusions. But again, tonight, after we approve this, starting that date, that's when the time period of 18 months starts. So that's probably the relevant connection. And as you see in the whereases, we had people volunteer to help us with that, and certainly the board and staff would be working on it.
But with a template, it means that the government efficiency program is efficient.
Right.
Gets us moving in that direction.
And,
Again,
and we shall see agenda items to approve on forthcoming board meetings, or?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Laura and I were talking about the idea of just using our regular board meeting structure time, since most of us will be here anyway, as an
Is that
idea.
something that's been verified that
We
we
can do
can
that.
do?
We think we can, because you can set your own schedules and
Yeah,
that
the
sort of
requirement's
thing.
just 3 board,
Three
you have to meet
meetings.
3 meetings.
Right.
3 meetings within that 18 months
Right.
before your
Yeah,
report's complete.
But then what constitutes a quorum of this board that has 2 more people on it?
We can answer any of those questions if we get, like what I'm hearing Michael saying is the quorum, the board or the whole group, or
Right,
I'm
and
assuming everyone.
The other members have to be present at the board meeting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be our practice, is to try to
Well,
get everybody
I've
there.
read that they've said like, maybe have it before your board meeting.
Correct.
Or
Yeah.
you can make it part of your board meeting, but yeah, then
Gotcha.
you have to have.
Or could we devote a study
Study
session
session, that's what I was
or
gonna say.
two
That would
to
work
that?
too, whatever you all
It just has to be a
like.
public meeting.
Yeah.
It has to follow all
study
the same
sessions-
rules.
Which study sessions
like
are
it.
public?
And we can create any new
Absolutely.
meeting schedule. I think what Laura and I's main point is if we could avoid adding more meeting
Right.
schedules.
Yes.
So tagging on to any existing meeting is the only concept we were promoting tonight.
And if we're really efficient, there'll be short additions to our
Exactly.
regular meeting.
The one thing that I would call out that we're not in love with is, there's always public comment at the beginning, and that's appropriate, and we're
Yeah.
used to that. At the end, I don't know if anyone looked at any of the, I think we put together, an agenda, and there's an item at the end for public comment on any of that. So that opens that door back up. And again, I think the concern is, we're confident of our practices and how we conduct ourselves, but there's a whole wide public out there that could really,
Go on to that.
enjoy an opportunity to, drag things down. Let me just put it that way. So
But
we're
it's a
trying to avoid
requirement of the
that.
meeting.
Yep, so we'll do it. And again, it doesn't mean you have to respond to that.
Right, we can still
Just
use our
like public
regular
comment.
public comment format.
Correct.
That we already
But
have
we recommend
established.
that
Okay.
too.
Absolutely.
but
And
it's only
IAPD is
3 minutes.
hosting a webinar in June where we'll get a
Yep.
lot more. of
More
these
information.
details
So,
And what they
Right.
recommend to keep it smooth and efficient.
well, that's a good point, Allison.
Hopefully.
There aren't a lot of details. I think this thing was thrust, they pushed back as far as they could. When it couldn't, then this is what got approved at, the legislative level, and now they're trying to template it to get it, palatable to at least get to the finish line. So that would be our goal.
We get to do it every 10 years.
Right, before I make this is a typo, right? This is supposed to say
Sorry.
form, not.
Correct.
like-
It is a
Yeah,
typo.
sorry.
Okay,
I found another.
That-
I just wanted to make sure, cool, because
Yeah, yeah.
it's like
If
there's
you
so
read
many,
it.
like it could be FOMR, or, you know what I mean? It's like, it's always something, so, okay.
Thanks
Nope,
for
I already have it
noticing.
circled.
So I move to approve Resolution 2023-07 to form a committee on local government efficiency in pursuant to 50 ILCS 70-1 and appoint Ashley Withers and Megan Pusey as 2 resident members of the Efficiency Committee with the advice and consent of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Second. Oh, you beat
Okay,
me.
I think, I think Meredith was the first draw on the second.
Loudest.
Any further discussion or questions on this point? Hearing none, then let's do a roll call vote, starting with Cedric.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
and that carries unanimously. So we've begun the process.
Yep.
There was no new business removed from the consent agenda, so we're on to Roman numeral 8, comments from commissioners.
The only comment that I want to say is, welcome.
Thank you, Cedric.
I'm glad to have you here.
Yeah, and the same, it's good to have you on the board. Nancy had such wonderful things to say about you, so it's coming from her, that's high praise.
It's really an honor to be taking her place, because we've known each other so long and intertwined, so thank you. It's very nice, and I'm really excited to be here and see where this goes, and, I've worked with so many of you for so long that this is really a great opportunity, so thank you.
And I'd like to say, welcome to the team, because the way this board has operated and all the time that I've served on it, it's really been a strong teamwork effort along with the staff to get the public's business done in a reasonable way and not, be pulling and griping and trying to grandstand. It's the parks and recreation in Urbana that are the job of this board. Let's do that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other comments? Well, I guess then we've exhausted our agenda, and I will declare us adjourned. And just say that's pretty momentous, each
Yes.
step we've
I
been
know.
taking in the last,
The big night tonight.
and exciting things to come.
We're ready.
Very.